Right. Looks like we have people joining us. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming to our webinar today. I'm Heather McAlpine. I'm a professor in the English department, and my co-host is, I'm pointing to where he is on my screen, Professor Rajneesh Dhawan. And we're going to be talking in this webinar about career paths for English majors. So before we get into it, I just want to acknowledge that I'm coming to you live and in person from the traditional and unceded territory of the Stalo people in Chilliwack. And I'm very fortunate to live and work in this land. So I'm just grateful for that. So what we're going to do today is I have like a little PowerPoint that we're going to put up, and Rajneesh and I are going to just talk a little bit about what kinds of skills you gain when you study a discipline like English. And so we're going to talk in kind of like theoretical terms about that. And then I'm also going to tell you a little bit about some of the statistics that are out there in terms of what kind of jobs exist for English majors, what kind of employment rates and career earnings there are, possible career paths. And I also have a couple of UFV English success stories as well. So I'm going to start to share my screen to my PowerPoint, and I will turn it over to Rajneesh, who will tell us about the skills piece. Go ahead.
Hello, everybody. I can't. Okay, there's a screen in front of me. Career possibilities for English majors, and this is a major question when we are deciding which majors to go for. And quite often, and I've been a victim of that, I'm using the term victim very consciously here, that you get an advice from people, hey, go this way, this is a safe path. There are more opportunities. And more often than not, that happens to be a non-humanities path, to the computers, to this, or into the business or into medicine or into sciences. You have more opportunities there. And it's not just our parents. Many of you might be very young at the time. There was a whole wave in 2013 or 2012 during Christy Clark's reign in BC, when she and her ministers were openly against the humanities, and they were diverting funds from the humanities towards trades and technology, saying that, oh, this is where the jobs are, this is where we are going to take you from learning to earning right away. And there was a huge boom, not the supposed boom about, what was that, LNG project. Oh, we'll have so many jobs. Guess what? Nobody got any job in that LNG project. And I have a lot of students I've had who shifted because of that rhetoric and came back to humanities and English majors. So what kind of opportunities do you have if you have a degree in English major? Before I go there, let me share a very interesting anecdote. Not anecdote, yeah, kind of anecdote. Okay, I was at the MLA conference in Seattle, the last conference before COVID that actually happened face to face. So MLA, the Modern Language Association, they had this huge conference every year. In 2020, was it? Yeah, everything's a blur. 2020, they had this conference, and I ended up listening to a panel that had highly paid and highly placed people from all the major tech companies that you can imagine: Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, all the others. And all of them were English majors or humanities majors. None of them had training in computer systems or computer information technology as during their undergrad or grad school. What were they saying? They were inviting people, because remember, this is MLA conference, modern language. This is a humanities conference, not a science conference. It's not a tech conference. It's a humanities conference, and all these high-ranking officials from these big firms are there. And if I were to summarize in one line, they were like, we want people who can think creatively. They said, we'll teach you the technology. That's not a problem. We'll teach you that. We need people who can think creatively and convey that creative ideas effectively. If you're able to do that, the rest will be taken care of. And that was a bit of an eye-opener for me as well, although I had written papers against this myth of job-oriented education earlier. Way back in 2014, I wrote one paper, The Myth of Job-Oriented Education. Education is not job-oriented. My education makes you ready for jobs to come looking for you. This is the basic problem. We think, oh, we have to go look for a job, but you are ready for anything, and then jobs come looking for you. So that is the idea with which I am playing today. So what does English major give you? It, as I said, gives you critical thinking and creative thinking. And it's not that they are not separate, they overlap. Critical thinking and creative thinking, it's like a Venn diagram. They overlap many stages. So we have creative writing programs, we have programs where we have courses. All the courses require you to think critically, which means you have something in front of you and you are able to create something out of it or create something out of nothing. When I teach creative, I teach creative writing, by the way. When I teach creative writing, I tell my students, you are doing the most difficult job in the world because you are creating something out of nothing. It's a blank page in front of you, and you're going to create something interesting, appealing, intriguing. And it's not an easy job. It's probably the most difficult job, to create something out of nothing. And that's what they are working with. This is what we are teaching. We are teaching you to look at something which is existing and look at it critically and then reevaluate and maybe think how it can be made better or what is missing in this piece. Today, I was reading Mending Wall by Robert Frost. And we've been talking about indigenizing the academy a lot. And I've read that poem many times, but today, again, when I read it for, I don't know, nth number of time, I realized, oh, there is something in here, because good fences make good neighbors is what the idea behind Mending Wall is. But we live in a place, and Heather mentioned to the Stoller people, indigenous people didn't have that idea. There were no walls. So people have asked, hey, how do you indigenize this kind? It is right there. The idea of good fences making good neighbors is an imported idea in this part of the world. It's not indigenous to this part of the world. So it's something there you can think creatively and critically and find something new, and we make the world better that way. I have a friend who works in the oil sand industry. He once asked me point blank, he said, hey, I work in the oil sand industry. What I make is tangible. You can see it. What do you do? I said, well, the person who looked at those oil sands and thought there might be oil in this, that's what we do. That's the starting point. You won't have oil if somebody didn't think critically and creatively and then explained it to people who mattered. Hey, this is, I mean, it's a wrong example to use, I know, in the modern day world with the rain in front of me that's coming down in buckets, the oil sand example, but this is a true story. This guy is actually my friend, lives in Edmonton, and he actually asked me this question. So you are thinking critically, you are thinking creatively, and you are able to communicate effectively. This is what English language skills give you. And once you are thinking critically, you are able to solve complex problems. And your judgment is based on not someone writing a post on Twitter while sitting on a toilet seat. Your judgment is based on credible information that you are able to see through, that you are able to understand and analyze that, okay, this information that I'm getting is proper, credible, and I should work with this. So it becomes ethical, it becomes inclusive, and you get the ability to look at the complexity of issues. So I don't know whether we should right now jump into the various other fields. I've already talked about the IT firms, but there are about 10 of them. And in my list, teaching is the last one. So when we ask students, generally, if I ask my students, hey, what are you planning to do once you graduate? I would say in the Fraser Valley area, 7 out of 10 say that they want to become a teacher, and especially English majors. So that's why I put that in my list at the end. The other ones we'll talk about earlier before that. But Heather, do you want to take it from there? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Just to kind of pick up on what you were saying about, the importance of critical thinking, creativity, and also the ability to tell the story. I think those are really crucial skills that you gain from studying English. So those are skills that are so foundational that perhaps we don't always think about them as we're learning them or as we're gaining them. But they can be applied to just about any area of life. And so career is one of those, right? So I'm going to share with you a few kind of statistics, a little bit of sort of like data here about English majors. So the challenge when we talk about careers for English students is always that there isn't just one career path that an English major can take. We're not just kind of selling you, okay, you're going to get your English degree and then you're going to go do this. The great thing about it that makes it challenging to talk about is that literally it opens up just about any pathway that you want to take, because it's giving you those foundational skills of creativity, critical thinking, and also the narrative place. Like you can understand and tell a story better than just about anybody. So I've been looking around for, some data to back this up. And I've found in this Future of Skills report, the idea that in the modern workforce, like in our workplace today, the most sought after skills. So they talked to recruiters and people who do hiring in all kinds of, areas. And the most sought after skills that people are looking for now are the ones associated with degrees in history, philosophy, but also English. English is one of the top ones. And it's precisely because of these skills of reading, writing, analysis, and synthesis, right? We can put together things that other people might not be able to have even thought of in the same area. We also are teaching skills like empathy and social awareness, the ability to understand the cultural context and to connect across cultures. These are things you also gain with an English degree. So the demand is increasing when it comes to people that can demonstrate that they have these skills. And so also just to kind of bust the myth that Rajneesh was talking about earlier, the idea that has been floating around at least since I was in high school, which believe me is a long time ago, that the people who are getting jobs are the people who study the STEM fields. So science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. When I was in high school, I had friends whose parents did not allow them to enroll in a college program that was not science-based. I was luckier than that. My parents understood that, the humanities had a lot of value. But let me tell you what, this is a myth. The idea that if you get a STEM degree, that you are sort of guaranteed a job, that is not true. And in fact, English graduates over the past 15 years have had better employment rates in their first 10 years after graduation than any other discipline. And that includes the STEM fields. So the idea that there are not jobs out there for English grads is an absolute lie. The other thing that's interesting to note is that the career earnings of an English major are greater to or equal than those of STEM graduates. So that doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to be making as much directly out of university as somebody with an engineering degree, but over the course of your entire career, yes, equal to or greater than. And the reason for that is that people with a humanities degree like English are better suited for and more likely to come into a management position and rise up through the ranks that way because of all the different skills that you gain as we've been talking about. So let's talk about some of the possible career paths. Like I really had to narrow this down because there was a list that I found of 50 possible career paths for English majors. And I thought, that's probably not going to fit on a slide. So I chose these 6. And I think that a lot of jobs that people might be interested in could fall under one of these 6 categories. So like I said, these are kind of arbitrarily chosen, and there are many, many others, but these are 6 areas that English majors have tended to sort of gravitate towards. So there's media and arts, writing for television, writing for film, becoming like a copywriter or an editor or a script supervisor. Journalism is another field that a lot of people gravitate to after an English degree. Creative writing can take a number of forms. Technical writing is another field. So writing for technical purposes within an organization, editing, publishing, and public relations. Marketing is a very wide field. And so everything from kind of social media management to marketing analysis and copywriting would be covered by that category. Law and government. So if you have any interest at all in pursuing a career in the law, English is an excellent starting point. And I personally know 3 people who are lawyers who started out as English majors. It's an excellent field because what you're doing when you practice law is that you're reading and interpreting text. And so what better way to kind of, prepare yourself than a degree in English? This also translates into policy analysis and those kinds of positions in government. So you don't need a law degree to do those things. Just the skills that you gain through English are often, kind of a good starting point. Management. So management is not necessarily a career path in itself, but the management of various kinds of organizations or businesses is something English majors are well suited for. Of course, teaching. So a lot of people do start with an English degree when they want to go into teaching. So elementary, secondary, or post-secondary are all areas that you can look into. Library and information sciences, which now extends into like way beyond what you would imagine for a librarian. So information systems, archival work, so museums and archives, curation studies, all kinds of fields are gathered up in that and under that heading. So these are just a few. Like I said, the tricky thing when it comes to talking about what you can do with an English degree is that there's actually too much. So a couple of years ago, the English department had a kind of like, I don't know what you want to call it, focus group or something, where we asked students like, can you help us come up with a kind of slogan that would, kind of indicate to people what it is that you can do with an English degree? Like, what do we want to how do we want to sell the English degree? And the slogan that they came up with was, where can English take you? Anywhere. Like, because there was so much that we couldn't narrow down, we decided to kind of use that because it is reflective of what you can do with an English degree. You can basically take it into any direction you want. So just for fun, I thought I would gather up a few famous English majors, not only, because these are recognizable people in some cases, but also to show the diversity of things you can do with the degree. So anything from a prime minister to a filmmaker to a lawyer to an astronaut, right? All of these people, what they have in common is just that English degree. So it suits you very well to tackle the challenges that come along in really any field. Now, here's a really interesting little anecdote that I wanted to share with you. So English majors are leaders. This is sort of how our education prepares us. We have, like we've said before, the creativity, the critical thinking skills, the empathy, and the leadership to do all kinds of great things. So almost 60% of people in the workforce with a humanities degree like English have jobs that involve managing or supervising, which it should go without saying are like the higher paying positions. Now, in 2013, Google embarked on what it called Project Oxygen because it had been gathering data on every person that it had hired since its inception in 1998. So it went back and analyzed the background and the skills and qualities of every single one of its employees that it hired between 1998 and 2013. Now, they started with the assumption that people from STEM fields like engineering, computer science would be their top employees, and that those people, the reason why that they had been their top employees would be these STEM backgrounds. However, what they found when they actually did this computer analysis of all their employees was that STEM expertise, so expertise in programming, computer systems, was the absolute last on a list of qualities that their top employees had. So STEM expertise was the least important thing that they found in their employees that were considered the top employees. They found 6 qualities that were common to all of their employees who were identified as top employees. These 6 are: number 1, being a good coach; number 2, communicating well; number 3, having insight into other people's minds and thought processes; number 4, empathy; number 5, critical thinking; and number 6, the ability to make connections across complex ideas. Now, I don't know about you, but when I read that list, I definitely think about English students, right? We work in groups, we work in teams, we read, write, and talk constantly. Through our study of literature, we enter into the minds, the lives of people who are essentially strangers to us. And our work requires us to adopt a position of empathy towards even the least seemingly sympathetic characters in the novels that we read, for example. When we analyze and when we research, we're doing not only critical thinking, but synthesis. And synthesis is that idea that you can put things together that may not be apparent to everyone. And so the practice that we get at those things really conditions us to hold, if we want to, very high level positions within companies and so on. Okay. So here are some actual real UFE English majors who have gone on to do a wide variety of very cool things. So on the far left-hand side of the screen is Lane Anderson, who did his English degree here and wrote an honors paper on Charles Dickens. He went on to found a marketing agency called London Road Marketing in Alberta, which was recently bought out by a very major media company. And so he's now the CEO of that company, doing very well. And I've spoken to him a few times over the last few years, and he really credits his English background with the ability to succeed in this field. He has no business education at all, except what he's taught himself. But he says that learning English and doing English was way more important for his success than the business piece ever was. He's like, I can learn business, I can read a book, how to run a business. But those other skills were things I needed the time to develop through my English degree. Matt Friesen, who is a brewer at Fieldhouse Brewing in Abbotsford, also did an honors degree in English here. And so the leadership skills and the ability to think creatively have helped him in his career. Desa Bayrock, who you may have heard of, currently a graduate student in Ottawa, a small press operator, and recently won an award for her poetry. So she's pursuing a kind of more creative, scholarly career. And Zachary Keeley currently teaches English and drama at St. John Brebeuf Secondary School. Same kind of thing, right? Education, that's a great field to go into if you have an English background. Rajneesh, do you want to help us flesh this out a little bit?
So lots of other aspects that other fields of work that come up when you just do a little Google search. The ones that I can connect with, and we have a connection, like English majors and with other schools, that comes to my mind is social work and community service, which can be combined with the English majors here. And within the university, we have that School of Social Work as well. So we can combine that. That one is online merchant platforms is something that they're always looking for people who can communicate properly. So there were sort of things that I was thinking when you were talking. Statistics, you were talking about data. I remember the data from that very year, 2013. And I showed it to certain high-ranking people. And even in that 2013, 2012 data in which the government was saying that humanities graduates are not doing very well, so we should take money away. Even in that, the British Columbia labor market report showed that people with humanities degrees have found more jobs than people with the non-humanities sector. So this I mean, it's the idea here is when you say English, as I said, my friend, you don't see immediately something tangible. You say, well, I speak English in any case. What's the big deal? But at the same time, when we say English, we in the language, the literature, and the creative, all these three combined are giving us, as the slide is mentioning, we have already mentioned a huge variety of career possibilities and earning potential. I don't want to brag, but as she was saying, it's been my life as well. Most of my schoolmates went into the STEM field, and yes, they started at a higher scale, but now I'm not at all anywhere lower than them as far as money aspect is concerned. Flexibility is huge in this one. It's a you. I'm not saying midlife crisis or anything, but at any point in time, you feel like, okay, I'm done doing this. Let me try something else. And if you have a humanities/English degree, chances are that you will have better skills to move from one to the other. And in this world that is changing every minute, flexibility is the key. And I'm a new immigrant to Canada. Ask me how important flexibility is. Right? English gave me the skills to work in the media, and my first job here was a radio jockey in Canada. I was a professor in India, and I came here and started working as a radio jockey. That helped me stabilize here, and then I found work in the university. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. It gives you the confidence to communicate within the group setting. As Heather was saying, we do a lot of group work, we do presentations. Actually, we were talking about success stories. I want to add Julia Dovey to that list, who recently her novel got accepted by a very reputed publisher. And I remember Julia Dovey in the first year she came to my class as a drama writing class 2012. A very shy student, hardly spoke anything, ended up now she can speak in front of 1 million people. So that's the kind of confidence level she gained. And that's just one example. I can give you many other examples. So that's ethics and social justice. We talked about that as well. You have the ability as English students to read complex narratives. And that helps in, as Heather was mentioning, in legal services, but it also helps in society, community building. You can decipher that and communicate effectively in maybe simpler words to people who don't understand those complex narratives, and then make it simpler. So it's not just about job, you're also making a difference in the community. And there is that myth of job-oriented education has been busted. Heather is probably 10 to 15 years younger than me. Heather, the same thing was told to me, that, be safe, go the science way. And I'm pretty sure the same thing was told to my dad as well. So I don't know. It's been there, because the whole thing is that you don't see it, feel it right away. It's in you. So you have to feel that the skill set is a part of you. It's not there to see, but it's there for other people to gravitate towards you. So, and it's fun. Main thing, you enjoy. I love my job. I'm never tired. People ask me, hey, you do so much. Are you a Superman? I said, no, it's fun. I don't work. You're reading novels, you're writing stories, you're entertaining people, you're writing new things. It's a satisfaction of creating something new, and then getting the feedback and then working on it. It's very satisfying. So yeah, I have never seen any humanities graduates struggle for survival or get a good job. In my 21 years of career, 11 years in India, 10 years here, I'm still in touch with many of them. They've all done pretty well. So there is no reason to be, jittery about that. Oh, I can only do teaching. Teaching is great. I teach, but I also write. Heather also does a number of other things. So yeah, I can go on and on, but if you have any questions, let's go there.
Yeah, that's great. I'm just going to stop the share. I just wanted to kind of pick up on what you said. I really like that comment about how it's not that English is teaching you like very specific skills. We do teach like skills, right? Writing is a skill, communicating is a skill, the ability to analyze is a skill, of course, but we're not doing like, this is how you titrate a solution. That's not what we do. We're really transforming people, right? Like you become a different person through your studies, which is exciting. And that's part of why the people who graduate from a program like this have such deep and flexible skills, and just the ability to take on all kinds of challenges. So yeah, if people have questions, yeah, pop them in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand and I can call on you or unmute you, that's a great thing too. So yeah, we'll open it up if people have questions that they want to see us talk about.
Otherwise, we are professors who have been out of our classes for 2 weeks. We will continue to talk.
Yeah, give us an empty, like some space, some like silence, and we'll just fill it up. No problem. Here's one. So the question is, I'm concentrating on creative writing at UFE. Do you think I can be as successful as people taking literature concentrations? I would say so. Like here's the thing about creative fields, right? Like drama and creative writing, they seem risky to people like, parents of folks that I know. And that's because it seems like, well, the creative fields are so precarious. Like, are you really going to make money writing books or something like that? But the deal is here, I'm not a creative writing professor, so Rajneesh can probably speak to this a bit more than I can, but to write creatively, like you were saying, requires such a degree of problem solving skills and critical thinking that it really suits you very well to do almost anything. So for example, the Google Project Oxygen project that I was telling you about, where they studied all of their employees to see what qualities that they had that made them outstanding, they aligned those pretty much with like English literature / creative writing. So they thought that like a creative writing student or a student of drama and theater is probably better suited to lead as a manager within Google than somebody with like an MBA or a degree in computer science. So for example, and I personally know lots of people who have graduated with creative writing degrees that have gone on to like wildly different careers, some like writing creatively with a day job, some doing creative writing as a day job. It varies, but yeah.
Okay, creative writing can be a career path in itself. I would suggest if you want to get into that, you have to start thinking professionally right away. And by that, I mean, you need to start building a portfolio when you are here. We have opportunities for that through the Cascade newspaper. We have the opportunity through Loudon Single Tree, the Zine magazine, and a couple of other publications that we have on campus. When you enter the market as a writer, the first thing that you need to think about it, why would the editor take you seriously? And that's where, first of all, when you have an English degree from a good university, that is number one. Then number two, you go there with a portfolio of published material at your school level or local county level. And then when you go there with this kind of a background, remember, editors, publishers, they need material. That's how their business works. If they don't get new material, their business will die. So you are as important to them as they are important to you. It's all about having that professional attitude. Most of us think, and I've been once again, quote unquote, victim of that thought process as well, Dad, when I was your age, that writing, you can have it as a side gig, you can have it as a hobby, you can have it something like that. But over the course of my experience, and I know people who do this totally, and the diversification of your genres is important. in terms of surviving as a writer. You will not always be writing best-selling novels all the time. It might take 10 years for you to attain that, 20 years, but there are other opportunities to make a living, a decent living, just by writing. As I said, content writing is there. That's big right now. Freelance journalism is there, and magazine articles are there for you. So there are opportunities. Once you get in you have to understand the business. That's all. And I do talk about the business aspect of writing in my classes, although it's not in the course outline, but I do add that business aspect, that how do you do the market research, depending, suppose you like aeroplanes, you want to write about an article about Chelawak Airport, how it came in handy during the recent floods. So there's an article ready, there's a story ready, and there's obviously a publication ready for it. It's all about expertise, and it's the same with STEM or anything else. You need expertise. You have to look at it professionally. If you want to be a writer, you have to think that I'm not writing just to feel good. I'm writing for the other person to feel good, and that's my audience. So you think once you get in that zone, there's no dearth of work. Trust me. You will have the problem of plenty.
Yeah, if I could just add to that, Lane Anderson, whom I mentioned in the presentation, was an English student, and he actually started his career because he was very fascinated with poker and gambling. So he took his writing skills and he started writing articles about gambling and poker. And he became, I think, the editor for the Canadian website of like Poker Stars or something like that. So if you have like a kind of interest, you can marry that with your writing skills and it can take you really far. So yeah, there's another question here. What is the biggest challenge do you think English majors face? Okay, I have an answer for this. I don't know what Rajneesh's answer would be, but here's what I think is that you sell yourself short and you don't necessarily understand what you have or know how to sell it, right? I think you think to yourself, because you probably, if you're like me, I don't know, like, I'm not sure what people's attitudes are now, but when I was in college and it was like, what are you studying? English. Oh, what are you going to do with that? It was like this very dismissive, like, what is that going to do? You're reading books all the time. What's that? And I think that kind of starts to get internalized, right? And you start to think to yourself like, well, I'm just studying English. It's this like, whatever. But that's a huge misconception. And that can really be a challenge because you're not just someone who reads a lot of books. Like you're someone who is basically acquiring all the most valuable skills to be an asset in almost any field. Like it's actually mind-boggling. So to me, a big challenge that English majors face is their own sense of who they are and what they can do. So I think it's really important to think like carefully about what it is that you're developing and nurturing in terms of your talents and skills and how that can be translatable into a career. So that transition, like I'll let Rajneesh take that, but I wanted to like link that in with the following question in the chat, which is, what sort of co-op or work study options should I be looking at as an English major? Anything that catches your interest. Like I think co-op and work study are super great pieces of your education. So you can take those English skills and then you can show the practical application of them to a particular task or a project. So I've had, over the past like 5 or so years, I've had a number of work study students working with me as research assistants. And I've also had work study students working with me as conference coordinators, because I organize and I manage the Young Authors Conference here at UFE, where we invite middle school students into the school and we organize workshops for them in creative writing. And so I've hired a work study student to help me with that process of organizing it. So this is an example of where an English student can come in and show like, I have great organizational skills, I have great people skills, I'm creative, I can solve problems, right? I've had a management type position. So any work study or co-op opportunity that you can do is a fantastic piece to add on to your education. And I'll let Rajneesh add anything he'd like to on those fronts.
Okay, I'll have to look at those questions again. Okay, the biggest challenge, yes, underselling is a challenge. Yes, I agree with that. Once again, the whole notion of tangibility is a problem. But once you know what you have, and you know that it is the foundation of literally every business / service industry. Just think about it. Just take creativity and communication out of anything, and what's left? Take it out of law. Is there anything left? No. Take it out of anything. From who thought about making a computer? Some creative brain. You take those out, we undersell ourselves, and it's because of the rhetoric around us, and that's probably why these kind of initiatives are important. I wish somebody had done that when we were young, but we would not have. But now, co-op is, again, as Heather said, I know students from English majors who have gone into legal co-ops as well, and journalists with certain publications. And Desa Bayrock her picture was shown in as success stories, and she was also a part of Loudon Single Tree, which is a very unique experiment. First of all, it's an award-winning magazine that we publish. We, in the sense, you publish, students publish it. Everything is done by students. It's like a training in developing a new magazine. How to start, how to get it in print, where to get it published, all that thing, and you get credit for that as well. So it's not a co-op per se, but it's a good practical training to get into the magazine business. And what was the other one there?
There's a question here also about career resources for someone interested in publishing or editing. I don't know if Rajneesh, you want to take that one as well?
Okay, yeah. So I would say, okay, I'll give you a trick. There's something called a journalist calendar. What that is, that let's say, what month is this? November? You start looking at 4 months ahead. Let's say April, May, June, something like that. Think of, and then Google about what important event happened, which is, I mean, there will be many important events that have happened every month, but you'll have to narrow it down what interests you. Say you are interested in show business, writing about Hollywood. Let's say Marlon Brando's birthday was in June. And then if somebody is publishing a magazine with film history or something like that, you send them an idea that, okay, I'm English major student, I have this, and I'm submitting you an article on Marlon Brando or Godfather, and his birthday is coming up in June. If that article is good, the editor 99.9% will accept it, because now he's relieved of at least 2 pages of his magazine. Now they are set for June. He's ready they have to plan 6 months in advance. Have 4 of these every year while you are here. Just write 3 or 4 or even 2, and chances of you getting published are great. I would say invest in a book, not book, it's kind of a directory called Writer's Market. It costs like $30. You don't have to buy it. You can, every public library has it, the latest edition. It's called Writer's Market. It lists all the avenues where you can sell your writing. Magazines, small press, novels, films, theater, wherever you will. It's a pretty exhaustive, and it's North American, essentially. If you want to try the London market, then it's called the Writers and Artists Yearbook. I don't know if they still publish it or not. They used to publish it when I was trying to get into this field. But the Writers Market is in publication. I have the latest edition with me. It's not very expensive, but once again, you don't have to buy it. They are available in public libraries by default. So in that, you will get resources on how to approach the editors, how to approach the book publishers, what kind of query letter should be there, what kind of proper etiquettes there are, what should you have ready before you approach somebody, how much money you should expect / demand, and how to say no to that, all those things. It's a very good resource, I would say. Yeah. Is there any other question that I'm missing here?
No, well, I can just kind of speak to that a little bit. So Danae has asked in a direct message whether there are career resources that we have for someone interested in publishing or editing. You've just given a great answer. I would also say that we as like English professors, creative writing professors, we have contacts in those industries. We have students who work in those industries. So if you are someone who is interested in learning more about those career fields, I would say talk to your professors or get in touch with Rajneesh or Andrea or Michelle Superl or me, John Pitcher, like anybody really. And we can direct you because we do know people that work in those fields. So if we can't answer that question about publishing or editing, we can definitely put you in contact with people who do. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. And then I've got a question here from Shayla. What do you believe is the best major or minor to pair with an English major and why? Well, anything. Like I think actually English, like if you're not going to major in English, like if you're not going to be the biggest hero and the best version of yourself and major in English, you can do an English minor. And I think if you add an English minor to literally any major, you're unstoppable. Like I actually read an article where they talked to different hiring managers in different corporations, and they basically showed them sample CVs from different people, their sample resumes of like hypothetical people. And so in like a lot of these were tech companies. And so they'd given the hiring manager a resume that was like very tech focused, like the person had degrees in just sort of tech fields, computer science, that kind of thing. And then they also had it in that pile a sample resume of a person with an English major and a computer science minor. And that was the person that they hired every time. They said, this is my top choice, looking at the resume, right? So I would say that English is maybe one of your best options as a minor, even if you're not going to major in it. But if you are an English major, I would say minor in what's interesting to you. When I was starting in university, I minored in history, and that became an art history minor because that's just sort of what interested me. And like I've never regretted it. And I have friends who minored in communications. I have friends that minored in French, all kinds of fields, business, right? So I'd say that because, as we were saying, English is this discipline that is so transformative of who you are and what kind of skill set you can bring, adding on literally anything else that interests you, I think would be a great choice. One more question, then I'll turn it over to Rajneesh if he has anything to add. But Janelle asks whether we think it's important to have a job in mind from the beginning of your academic career when pursuing your English degree, or is pursuing the degree enough at first? Here's what I think. This is something that actually Lane Anderson, I did an interview with Lane. That's why I know so much about his career, trajectory. But I did an interview with him a while ago because he has this like interesting job. Like for a while, he was like a social media marketer for a company before he started his own marketing firm. And he basically said, the job that I have right now did not exist when I started university. So like, even if I had had a career plan in mind, I could never have anticipated like where I would end up because this job didn't even exist. And the fact is that like jobs, the workplace, careers are changing at a fantastic rate. Like there are careers that are kind of in development now that didn't exist a year ago. And that's just continually true. So when you study a field like English and you gain all these flexible skills, you can really kind of pursue anything. That being said, if you do have a strong interest in a particular direction, like you feel, they call that like a calling, or you feel a vocation for education, then maybe you want to check out opportunities in that direction. So I think having curiosity about your future career and what you might want to do with your English degree is a great idea. And I think being curious and checking it out and trying it out and doing work studies and doing co-ops and doing extracurriculars like the Loudon or volunteering, any kind of work that you do above and beyond what happens in the classroom is going to help you figure out what you're good at and what you want to do. Because the idea here is for you to have a career that fulfills you and sustains you and really makes you feel good, not something that you dread going to school every day or going to work every day, I should say. So I would say, like, if you have a sense of what you want to do, great. Look for opportunities to develop that. but you don't have to know right off the bat. Like when I started university, I believe that I wanted to be a librarian. That was kind of like my ideal job, like cozy, quiet, books everywhere, you know? And I still think that sounds like fun, but it turns out that when I got started doing some volunteer work with other undergraduates tutoring, I realized, wow, I really actually like teaching. So I kind of took that direction, but it wasn't always obvious to me.
Yeah, it's
Rajneesh.
not a very bad idea to have an idea what you want to do, but what I say, what English does, especially the creative writing field does, is that it makes you ready to switch if you want to. For instance, when we are doing short writing, we are workshopping. Sometimes it's not working. It has happened with me. I wrote plays and films, and then it's like, it's not working. Let's change the whole thing, and that's okay. You don't feel that you have lost valuable hours or something because you know it's a whole process. Similarly, if you have an idea, this is where I'm going, and 2 years down the line, you feel maybe that was not a great idea. Heather started as a librarian. I went the science way, shifted later. So, and so it's, Heather is that right. If you really, let's say you're focused on getting into the publishing business, then you can start looking at those resources right away from day one. And if your focus stays that way by the time you finish the degree, very good. You have a whole portfolio with you, you have everything ready, and you're ready to enter the market, or rather the market is ready to take you in. But on the other hand, if 2 years later you feel, okay, well, publishing is not my thing, I want to do stand-up comedy, so, well, so what? We'll shift you that way. That's what the flexibility I've been talking about throughout the moment we started this, is that English gives you the flexibility here as well, because you feel that I didn't lose anything. When you write a short story, you spend, like, let's say a short story takes like 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 hours, or that's just writing. I mean, you've been thinking about it, but then it doesn't work, and then you talk to your professor and your peers, and then they give you idea, hey, maybe if you made this character this way, like that the play on Kawangatamaru, That Land Beyond the Waves, that I made and was performed here, the lead character in that play had a one-line role in the first draft. So it's not, I won't say that the first draft was a waste of time. It was a learning process. That's the flexibility we are talking about. If you have a goal, it's good to have a goal. And I always ask students to do market research before they start writing. Where do you want to publish it? But it gives you flexibility. I wrote a film, I tried to sell it, it didn't sell, I converted it into a novel, and it sold. So that flexibility is always going to be essential to your career path at any stage. So yeah, sure, have an idea, start working on it, talk to your profs. We have office hours for that purpose only. Okay, talk to your profs, ask, share the experience, learn, talk, and yeah, start building that right from the word go. No problem. But English will give you the strength to be flexible in case you change your mind. It won't be, oh my God, I've spent 2 years, what do I do? Nothing. You've not lost anything. You'll just shift to another one. Okay. I hope, is there any other question here?
There is just a direct message to me from UFE College of Arts that students should be aware that we're launching a work study and practicum scheme in the humanities. So keep an eye out for that. There should be an announcement this week about that. Called Work Integrated Learning. So keep an eye out, because there's going to be opportunities for you to kind of like explore career possibilities while you're mid-degree, which I think is really exciting. That's a great idea. But yeah, Rajneesh is right. Talk to your professors. Like we went through school, we all have English degrees, we know students, we know former classmates. Like we can help you make connections with people who have careers that you're curious about. So even outside of the work integrated learning program, which seems really great, talking to your professors, I think, can be a really, really powerful way to explore career possibilities. Does communications offer the same skills as an English degree? What's the major difference? Yeah, that's a tricky question. I would say communications tends to be a little bit more about technical skills in terms of writing to particular situations. So report writing, writing for the internet, writing in particular situations. And so communications tends to be a little bit more of a social sciences field where they study, the nature of communication itself and how communication happens within particular instances. I would say English is more of a humanities focused discipline, so that we study creative products, we study creative process, and we talk about kind of like analysis from a different perspective. We're talking more about like interpretation, analysis from a sort of social historical perspective and things like that. So communications and English are distinct. They're distinct fields. I don't know if Rajneesh has anything to add to that, but I would say, yeah, like.
No, I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that's my impression. And so
it's more on the technical side, that one.
Yeah, it's more technical.
More compartmentalized. English is flexible and it opens. It gives you more. What's the word I'm looking for? Avenues to explore.
It's more creative. Yeah, it's a bit more of a creative focus. And in terms of both the writing and the reading, I think. So yeah, I think they're complementary in some ways. Like, so I think that if you have a strong English background, taking some communications courses can be a nice way to learn how to adapt your writing skills to particular instances. And I think vice versa, it's also true. So if you're a communications, if you've taken more communications courses, an English degree or an English course can kind of help you deepen some of the ideas that you might have explored, or the concepts you might have explored there. So the thing that I want to point out as well is that in English, we offer courses in creative writing. We also offer courses in rhetoric, which is a more kind of philosophical approach to thinking about how language works and how acts of communication work. So rhetoric is a classical field, but it still has a lot of relevance. And so we have the creative side, we have the philosophical side. Communications is a little bit more the technical side, I'd say.
Yeah, I think Shelby, you asked for which minor. I can give you some specifics too. Shayla, theater is a great one to connect with. And we have a good theater program at UFV if you're interested there. SCMS is a good one to connect with, sociology and social cultural media studies. We have a developing school of creative arts. So graphic design is a good one to combine with the English degree. I know a student of mine who's now working with a graphic novel. So he has the creative degree and he has the graphic design degree. So it's, these are the three that come to my mind right away. But as Heather said, literally anything can be paired with that. But if you wanted a concrete answer, these three are the ones that come to my mind right away, in which we have like good programs here at UFV. SCMS and theater and School of Creative Arts is where I would suggest. Yeah.
I can't tell you how often it occurs to me that I wish I had taken more drama. Like I didn't take any theater at all in university. I took the drama option 1 year in high school or 2 years in high school. And I really wish I had taken more of it because, learning just improvisational skills, learning like those, like how to move your body and how to use your voice, like all those things just sound like such a great thing to have in your toolkit.
Well, it's never too late, Heather. Yeah. And we have some new fun stuff happening, like Alex is teaching a stand-up comedy rhetoric course, it's a new one which Alex developed. I think he taught it twice, and as part of that, we also have shows in stand-up comedy. I will probably be proposing a stand-up comedy writing course in the coming year. So there's a lot of, as I said, new, as Heather was also saying, nothing is set in stone nowadays. It's not like, oh, you have these three things. And when I was growing up, I was given three options. You become a doctor, engineer, or a teacher. That's it. Nothing more than that. okay, I don't want to study science, so maybe that's all. It's not the same right now. So I would say just explore our page, English page. We have new faculty coming in with newer ideas, and we have older people like me with older ideas that are still relevant. So yeah, explore our page and talk to us. It'll be fun.
Yeah, that's all the time we have. That's a great thing to end on, I think. Rajneesh, talk to us, look at our webpage. Thanks to all of you for coming. We really appreciate it. We hope this was helpful for you. Follow up with us if you have any questions. But yeah, thanks so much.